Hey, it's Matt Moscona. You found it. It's AFR LSU, your home for daily content on your favorite team, Fighting Tigers of LSU. And we're proud to be presented by BetUS, where this football season, get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. Be sure to use the promo code YouTube150. Now, enjoy the video. I was looking at Twitter and saw my buddy Jarrett Roser, who's now over at On3 the Bengal Tiger. I was looking at Jarrett's Twitter, and it's just like this continuous stream of him retweeting guys who have been offered by LSU. There's Keyshawn. There's Keyshawn Stansel, a defensive end who was offered. Frederick Ards, who was offered, CJ Bronaugh, who was offered, Xavion Griffin-Haynes. I mean, you can go look at all this on his Twitter if you want. There's a piece from Shea Dixon. JUCO, Jarmine Mitchell, offensive tackle. Anyway, tons of stuff. Go look at Jarrett's Twitter. You can go see all the offers right there. But one that really stands out, it stands out in particular because he's the number one player in the country for 2026, according to On3. A defensive end edge, Zion Ely, has been offered by LSU. This is interesting for a variety of different reasons. Naturally, if you're going to go offer the number one player in the country, that's always going to get a little more attention than any other player, obviously. But Zion Ely, remember, is the number one player in the country. That's according to On3, by the way. On3 has him as the number one player in the country. In the composite, he is the number 3 player nationally, the number 1 edge, and the number 2 player in the state of Maryland. That's because Rivals rates him as the 22nd best player in the country. On3 has him number 1. 247 has him number 2. ESPN has him number 8. And Rivals has him number 22. Like, whatever. Anyway, he's good. Let's put it to you that way. He's a good prospect that everybody wants. He's got 30 offers. Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. The interesting thing is Zion Ely he's from Maryland, and he's from Baltimore, but he's committed to the University of Maryland. And despite the fact that he committed to Maryland back in December, he's still taking visits. Like he's got a visit to Auburn coming up, for example. And I think this one's interesting because LSU does have this sort of pipeline to Baltimore here of late. We'll get right back to the video. My pleasure to tell you once again about our partners this football season at BetUS, where right now you can get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on your next two deposits, up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150 to go place your bets. Let me show you how easy it is to place your bets. And let's look at futures bets. The college football season's over. So what about the 2025 championship? You go to football at BetUS. You select college championship future bets. And here are the odds for next year's national championship. Ohio State, the betting favorite. Texas, Georgia, Oregon. There's LSU at plus 2,000. If you believe with Garrett Nussmeier back, this portal class, this team is destined for the college football playoff, you probably won't see a number better than plus 2,000. So let's go ahead and jump on that now and watch how this could pay out, as a matter of fact. If we wanted to bet on this future right now, plus 2,000, $25 could win you $500 if it hits. Now, you got to wait a long way for it to pay off potentially. It's simple. Tap, tap, confirm, and just like that, we're locked in at plus 2,000 for LSU to win next year's national championship. You could place your bet at BetUS. Be sure to use that promo code YouTube150 so you get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on your next two deposits, up to $2,000. Now, enjoy the rest of the video. So he's 6'3", 220. He's the number one edge in the country and all that stuff. But remember, so he goes to St. Francis, which is kind of one of these football factories in Baltimore. LSU a couple of years ago signed Deshaun Womack as a 5-star out of St. Francis in Baltimore. Jordan Tolles, safety, they signed a few years ago out of St. Francis in Baltimore. Greg Penn was not from St. Francis. He was from DeMatha, which is another Catholic school in Baltimore. So LSU has had this connection here in the last handful of years to Maryland. And it's interesting because Brian Kelly spent a dozen years at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame has to recruit nationally, but Notre Dame never signed a player out of St. Francis Academy. Never, not only Brian Kelly, ever. But starting in 2019, and there was a really interesting long feature that one of the recruiting services did on Notre Dame trying to build a pipeline to St. Francis in Baltimore because it's become a football factory of sorts. Since 2019, Notre Dame has offered 10 players from St. Francis. So they are trying. Now Marcus Freeman is trying to get into that pipeline. But the point is Brian Kelly was as well. So, and certainly Freeman, when he was the defensive coordinator there under Kelly, was trying as well. All that to say, it's not like there's the kid who's the number one player in the country, the number one edge, and so you're just going to throw your hat in the ring to see if you can make it stick. I mean, everybody's offering him, but you've actually gone into that school in the last handful of years and gotten a couple of players to come here. Now, both Tolles and Womack have transferred out, but you've still been able to go make your successful pitch and get those guys to sign. Obviously, now NIL, revenue share is going to be a huge part of it, so we'll see how that all plays out. But, I do look at a player like this and LSU's opportunity. First of all, the fact that he's committed to Maryland kind of feels to me like when Jamar Chase committed to Kansas. Y'all remember that? Like, did you forget that Jamar Chase? Yeah, that Jamar Chase. Like the best receiver, and the guy who just won the Triple Crown in the NFL. Like that dude was committed to Kansas. And it was interesting, man. Like there were some coaches on Les Miles' staff from LSU at LSU ties who were there in Kansas. They recruited Jamar early in his recruitment. He committed to Kansas. Was on a visit. They went wild. Like 10 dudes all committed to Kansas on one weekend, whatever it was. Jamar was one of them. He ended up flipping to Florida and then flipping to LSU. The rest is history, as they say. But that's kind of what this feels like. Hard to imagine Zion Ely sticking. I don't know anything about him. But it's hard to imagine him sticking with that Maryland commitment just because, man, everybody's going to come after him. Now, maybe Under Armour's got the money they're going to dole out and make that stick, but hard to imagine that happening. Could, but hard to imagine it. And especially when I look at it from LSU's perspective for 2026, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves because you're talking about next year's class. So after this football season, what are going to be the positions of need? Well, I'd say you put a Band-Aid on defensive end or edge, outside linebacker this year, but I'm not so sure that I would call what LSU did in the portal a Band-Aid. I mean, that's like putting up a marble column to hold this thing up, right? You got Patrick Payton from Florida State, the number one defensive player in the portal. You got Jamari Butler, a 6-year dude out of Nebraska. You got Jack Pyburn from Florida, who's been a really great run-stuffing edge, who's trying to become a more effective pass rusher, which is why he's here as well. And that's awesome. That's going to make you immediately better in 2025. The problem is all three of those guys, they're gone after 2025. So those are one-year rent players. That is the definition of the one-year mercenary in the portal. Those three guys you got. So after next season, the only players that, if everything holds, that you'll have coming back, Gabe Relaford will be going into his third year. Kalaj Cobbins will be going into his third year. Dylan Carpenter will be going into his third year. And then, of course, you got Damian Shanklin in this class. Like, that's it as far as defensive ends or, edges. So you got to go in this 2026 class and start to bolster your numbers at edge. And number one player in the country at that position might make a lot of sense. Point is, LSU's going to have a lot to offer to a guy like Zion Ely. I don't know if they'll land him, as we just saw with Bryce Underwood, another top-tier talent. So much of that's going to be a bottom line. Maybe that whole conversation shifts with revenue share. Maybe it's more revenue share and relationships as opposed to NIL as it's become, which is pay for play, highest bidder. A lot of these collectives might be going away. So we'll see. I mean, a year from now, the landscape could have entirely shifted around these recruiting conversations. But LSU has gotten into the mix here for Zion Ely, the number one player in the country for 2026. And there's good reason to go shoot your shot, man. It's a position of need. You've proven you got money to spend and will spend it. You've got a pipeline to that school and that community to getting kids to Baton Rouge here in the last half decade. And you got a pretty good coaching staff on your defensive front as well. So want to keep an eye on as LSU's offered Zion Ely with a host of offers that they doled out here this week as coaches are getting out there and recruiting again as the dead period's lifted. Thanks so much for watching the video. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, hit the bell so you're notified when we post a new video, and remember to support BetUS, where right now you can get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Be sure to use that promo code YouTube150.